So in what, 2 years, maybe a year, 2 years, lahat tayo, all of you will be finishing college. Hopefully, no? Sana, cross our fingers, will be finishing college. Some may pursue siguro higher education, magma-masters. But some, I'm thinking maybe majority, will join the workforce and start your respective careers. Marami sa inyo, I'm sure, will be working for top companies, not only here in the Philippines, but also abroad. Eventually, fast forward, you will be promoted, and then you'll get married, maybe buy a house or buy your first car. And then in 10 years, ano na, you'll be 30. And from then on, your life will be set. Yun na, tuloy-tuloy na yon. Most of college students and fresh grads think na ganon. That's how the real world, no, quote unquote, the real world works. Ganun lang siya ka straightforward. And the problem there is that they pressure themselves to follow that timeline. Na okay, ito na yung edad ko, dapat ito na yung na-achieve ko kasi ito na yung na-achieve nila. Ito na yung edad ko, dapat ito na yung na-achieve ko. Kasi yung mga friends ko, yung mga batchmates ko, ito na yung na-achieve nila. Ito, ano pa nangyayari sa buhay ko. Pero trust me, guys, it is way complicated than you think. Hindi siya ganun lang. And for us to understand that, maybe I'd like to share, tell you more about myself, no, about me. Maybe some few facts about me. Number one is, as you know, I am the CEO of Circologica Group. If you're not familiar with the company, if you've seen any of these logos in the past, this is part of a one group of companies where I manage on a day-to-day basis. I'm also an HR leader. Been in the HR for quite some time now. I am a speaker, training facilitator, and an HR consultant. Pero I'm also a batang 90s, no? So pasok tayo, check tayo sa millennials. Which is maybe for some would think na okay, paano nag-match yung lahat ng yon. So I also have batchmates and friends na lagi yan naririnig ko, ano na nga na parang buti ka pa chill na lang, sana all, 28, CEO na, madami. So many people feels that they are being left behind. Pero it does not have to be that way. Dapat hindi ganon ang mentality natin. I understand, and even ako, napagdaanan ko in the past, there are days when the feeling of being left behind is so strong. Yun nga, you see one friend buying his own car, or you see a cousin getting his or her promotion, or your friends being able to settle, to get married. This kind of feeling is one of the hardest feelings in the world. Kasi this means self-doubt. And that's one thing na hindi maganda when you're starting to doubt yourself. This is extremely dangerous because ikaw mismo, you yourself, you need to believe in your capabilities first before others. Kasi kung hindi ikaw, if you don't, then walang maniniwala sa'yo. If you don't believe in yourself, you can't expect anyone to believe in you kasi ikaw nga mismo, wala kang tiwala sa sarili mo. So this is something, what you're seeing on the screen is something that is what people are seeing. But that's not the backstory. The backstory is that what they seem to be forgetting is that we do not have to compare our achievements with others. Kanya-kanya tayo ng pinagdadaanan sa buhay. Kanya-kanya tayo ng problema. kanya-kanya tayo ng laban. We all have battles na pinaglalaban natin kahit nakangiti tayo and all. But all we have to do is to focus on our goals and to be happy for those people na finally are getting the fruits of their labor, because in one way or another, darating din naman tayo doon as long as, yun nga, we focus on our goal. If we follow a standard timeline, then we will live our life thinking na loser tayo. And to my case, no, my story, trying to be really honest, came from a broken family. I've started working since high school, since half day lang kami nung high school. I worked part-time at Jollibee from third year high school because of to help my family then, since broken family, so to help my mom provide for the family. And yet, until now, no, ano tayo? Unmarried. So, hindi perfect lahat. Hindi dahil they're up there, their life is perfect. It doesn't have to follow a standard timeline. Hindi ibig sabihin na, ito na yung edad ko, dapat ito na yung na-achieve ko. Otherwise, we will live our life in sadness, in depression. Following another person's timeline may actually fail you. I'm not saying na it will fail you all of the time. Meron talagang magagandang pwede nating sundan. Pero then again, each of us are unique. We have our own timeline, and I'll tell you more about it later on as we go along sa discussion natin today. I know people who graduated at 21. Sobrang aga nila nag-graduate. They graduated at 21. Maybe maaga, maybe on time. But they didn't get a job until they were 27. Sobrang tagal nilang nag-apply. Ang daming inattempt. Pero hindi sila na-hire. Not until they're 27. So 6 years of not being employed. At the same time, I know people who graduated late at 25, but they were able to find work immediately. So let that sink in. Both are actually okay. They have their own timeline. We really can't guarantee na yung na-hire agad would progress more, or yung isa na hindi agad na-hire took too long for her to get the job, mas matagal din ang pag-akyat sa corporate ladder. No? I'd like to cite one very good example of someone who graduated late, still pursued his studies, graduated really late in life, Manny Pacquiao. No? Such an inspiration to all of us. I know people who never went to college at all. If you're familiar with Henry Ford, if maybe you're not familiar with the face, but if you see the logo, never went to college, but they found what they love at 18. At the same time, I know people who found a job straight right out of college, making decent money, okay naman yung kita and all, malaki yung sweldo, but they hate what they do. I know people who took gap years, but they were still able to find their purpose. I know people who were so sure about what they were going to do at 16. 16 years old pa lang, ito na yung gagawin ko. Ito yung mga yearbook natin ng high school, sometimes yearbook ng grade school. Alam na talaga nila, ito yung gagawin ko. But they would change their mind at 26. Nag-iiba-iba lahat. I know people who have children but are single. And I'm sure na kahit kayo, meron kayong mga kilala. They have children but they're single. At the same time, we know people who are married but they had to wait 8, 10 years to have children. Magkaiba ang timeline ng buhay nila. Does it mean that one is sad than the other group? One group is parang mas sad sila? Does it mean na yung isang group is mas happy? Yes and no. Depende. Because it's their own battle. It's their own timeline. And happiness is not something that it's something that you choose. It's not something na dumarating sa'yo. It's something that you choose. Positive outlook is something that you choose for yourself. I know people who are in a relationship, but they love someone else. And I know people who love each other kahit hindi sila magkasama, even if they're miles and miles apart, mga LDR talaga. Magkaiba ang timeline. So, what am I trying to say? My point is, everything in life happens according to our time, according to our clock. You may look at some of your friends and think that they're ahead of you. Maybe some of them you feel are behind, but everything happens at our own pace. They have their own time and they have their own clock, and pati ikaw, meron ka din. In fact, to cite an example, Noynoy, our former president, the former president of the Philippines, retired at 54 years old. 54, nagretiro na siya, tapos na siyang pagka-presidente. When Duterte is just starting at 71 years old. Pareho ba sila naging presidente? Yes. Pareho ba sila naging leader of the country? Yes. Pareho ba silang nakaiwan ng legacy? Yes. At their own respective timelines. Hindi ibig sabihin na mas late yung isa or mas maaga yung isa, nalamangan na nung isa yung kabila. They have their own timelines. Another example would be time zones. Singapore is 7 hours ahead of France. Nandito banda eh. Even tayo sa Pilipinas, where we have the same time zone as Singapore, we're 7 hours ahead of France. So technically ngayon nasa, ang hirap mag-math. Anong oras na ngayon? -7 in France. Does that mean na slow sila? Not necessarily. It's still the same. Darating pa rin sila sa 4:00 ng hapon. J.K. Rowling, the author of the Harry Potter series, it took her 32 years para ma-publish yung Harry Potter na book niya. She was rejected by 12 publishers muna. They didn't feel na bebenta yung book niya until the 13th publisher, hindi siya sumuko. The 13th publisher accepted and published her book. And now, lahat tayo alam natin yung book. Maybe sinabaybayan natin yung series. Nag-fail ba siya? Not necessarily. Mark Zuckerberg, another example. He started Facebook at 20. Bata. He became the world's youngest self-made billionaire at 23. Billionaire to. At 23 years old. Jack Ma, the founder of Alibaba, founded Alibaba at 35. Are they both successful? Yes, definitely. Sabay ba? Not in terms of actual years, but they have their own timelines. In fact, I'd like to share something that's really interesting about Jack Ma. He was interviewed by Bloomberg. He was asked, you got used to rejection kasi ganun talaga ang buhay niya, lagi siya nare-reject. You got used to rejection, weren't you turned down for admission in college? At ito yung sagot niya. Sabi niya, there's an examination for young people to go to university. I failed it 3 times. I failed a lot, sabi niya. Talagang kilala natin si Jack Ma na talagang lagi siya nag-fail even before naging successful. Before rather, naging successful si Alibaba. So I applied to 30 different jobs, got rejected sa lahat ng yon. I went for a job with the police. They said, you're no good. I even went to KFC when it came to my city. 24 people ang nag-apply. 24 people went for the job. 23 were accepted. I was the only guy who failed. But where's Jack Ma now? He has his own timeline. Not necessarily noon. It's not yet his time to become successful. Pero that doesn't mean na mas successful yung mga natanggap. So getting your degree after 25 is still an achievement. Citing the example of Manny Pacquiao earlier, not being married at 30 but still happy is beautiful. Ano naman, as long as you're happy, walang problema, no pressure at all. If you're starting your family after 35, that's okay. That's possible. If you're buying a house after 40, that's still great. You were still able to accomplish your goal. Iba lang yung timeline mo. Don't let anyone rush you with their timelines. Not your friends, not your family, not your partner. Kanya-kanyang laban sa buhay to. We have our own timeline in life. Just like what Einstein said, I really love this quote. Not everything that counts can be counted. And not everything that can be counted counts. Hindi lahat ng nabibilang importante. And this is the most important thing. I want you guys to be able to create meaningful, purposeful, fulfilling lives for yourselves, not following anyone's footprints. Gawa tayo ng sarili natin. Follow our own timeline. Learn how to use that to make an impact and difference in the lives of others, especially we're in the field of human resources. And in one way or another, there will be lives that will be impacted by everything that we do. So, yun ang totoong success. Leaving something behind. So I'd like to take you back to this person here that we saw earlier today, si Ate. So we stop at this part of the video, but there's actually more to that. See? So, mind-blowing again. What I'm trying to say in this video is that we are unique in our own way. We may be nothing in the universe, not even alikabok in the universe, but individually, we are unique. life is not a race. No? Hindi to paunahan. Hindi pagalingan. Kanya-kanya to. It is a journey that needs to be felt. A journey that needs to be enjoyed every hour, every minute, every second. You can't afford to miss a single moment of it kasi pag nawala yon, wala na. You can never get it back. Sometimes we are so busy looking at the moon that we forgot how beautiful the stars are. Let that sink in. So hold on to that pace that you have, and that timeline that you have. Trust your own pace. Thank you very much, everyone. Again, this is Michael of Circological Group. If you'd like to um, continuously be inspired, and learn how to navigate through life, feel free to follow me on LinkedIn.